the example was I got feedback from Dan about the presentation I gave, and his feedback was valid. My immediate default position was that it felt like a personal attack, as opposed to listening to him as a coach, which is a little disappointing on my part, given that, you know, it's called resiliency training for a reason, right? Where you're trying to get more resilient and be able to take that feedback and not get sunk by it, but instead to acknowledge it, understand it, and grow. And you know, of course, it's fine. You can always say, well, wait a second, something that you just said wasn't quite right. But my immediate reaction most of the time is this person's attacking me personally, and I have to make a conscious effort to stop that immediate reaction and slow down for a minute and listen to the coaching.
So can I give you something that's maybe counter to how we're trained, right? I think generally speaking, we are trained to think before we talk, right? I mean, this is kind of baked in from early education. It's baked in to just kind of slow down our communication, right? Like, so don't say something you might regret, right? Like, I mean, and that cancel culture is that overdone. I'm saying what Hamish is trained to do, as we are all trained from the industrial age, is kind of basically shut your mouth, right? Process better and listen calmly, right, to what they're saying, and then pick your words carefully and respond, right? I mean, this is kind of a general notion that we have all been schooled on, educated on. So like most things, there's places for that. Hey, if you're being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, do that. In fact, speaking unfiltered communications to a published reporter or blogger, it would just be the dumbest idea in the world. So you got to pick your words carefully, because one wrong word choice, you know, will get clipped and then used against you as a sniping weapon, right? So recognizing there are places for that skill, but right now we've overdone learning that muscle. We've underdone this muscle of just free speech. And this is in circles. So you're in a safe circle of people. And so what I'm saying first, Hamish, is give yourself permission to just be real and honest. Imagine what Dan said. Your first reaction is, you know what, Dan, I'm going to be honest first. It pisses me off what you said, right? I feel you're attacking me personally. And my reason and logic for you attacking me might be because maybe I said something last week or this week, and that's what reason. So like your reason and your logic, right? The bullets behind why Dan's comments, and sometimes being able to say that, like put you in a state to now listen to what was said. The problem with holding that back, a lot of us think, you know, I'm an adult enough. I can reframe and just ignore the pink elephant in the room, but I'm going to go and process what you said. And the reality is it's taking too much brain power, so you cannot think. So finding the safe spaces where you can be real against real. So first, get that off your chest. Then it might give you a chance to process what was said. And when I think of what was said, one of the things that always is an important skill when it comes to challenges, difficulty, is we call it Dev GPS 1 and 2, the perspective that we miss, or the direction we miss, where is this presentation you gave in this practice group, the score of it, is it really that important? Because, you know, when we get upset at someone dinging us on a presentation, it's because we think this is the final Olympics and the next chance I get to present is what, every 4 years? Versus if you realize the direction looking forward, this is to get me better for something more important. And if you're able to narrate that perspective, we take critical feedback very differently. Like I want to know, right? Like it's almost like Dan's not the audience you really need to score with, right? If Dan dings you, and yeah, maybe Dan has a little bit of a gripe against you and he wants to throw a little extra salt, right, with the criticism. By the way, that's human nature. We all do that, right? We all have unprocessed like baggage or something I want to ding you on from before, but I do it all in the window where now I'm giving you a critical feedback, so I'm just going to pour a little extra pepper and salt on it, right? So that's human nature.
Yeah.
But take the pepper and salt out, there's still something valid. And I believe his intention probably is to get you to be a better presenter or make this presentation better.
You know what's interesting? I was just thinking about the notion of when somebody says something that your reaction is so defensive, it's usually because it hits a nerve, but you're not quite sure in the moment. You know, you might be thinking Dan's personal attack, and I think recognizing for one, that is human nature. Charlie and I have been working together for 24 years, and sometimes I feel that way, and we're like really close friends, but I'm like, it feels like an attack, right? It can feel like that.
Which is like trigger. The word we use is trigger.
So I was like, what is it triggering? What nerve did he just hit? And sometimes you don't even know, but I love what Charlie said, which is first to recognize and be able to say, what you just said is pissing me off, is upsetting me, whatever it might be. Just letting that out gives you a chance to be, it's like, it's triggering something, Hamish. However he said it, whatever he said.
The word choice, the emphasis,
something about it, right? And to even use that session to dissect what is that would be an interesting discussion, because now next time that happens, you're at least more aware of it. You know, there's topics that when it comes up, it still triggers me. It means I'm not fully over it.
I can't tell you how freeing it is to like recognize that the very skill that we need to unlock is just being human.
Yeah.
Versus what we have been trained and taught to do is suppress our humanness, right? Someone says something and I have a bunch of data points I strung together. So Dan or Mackie or whoever says it, I'm now speaking up because I didn't have enough to react to back then. But we're always looking for patterns. There's a pattern recognizing element that it tips you to a point where it triggers you. And that happens for all of us with different individuals and different topics. The first time you hear something that's, like uncomfortable or icky, you're like, maybe I'm overreacting. So you dismiss it. Second time, you're like, something's going wrong. And by the third time, or even on the second time, you might come down harder and try to unpack what's happening.
Yeah.
As opposed to feeling ill or subpar as a uneducated, untempered adult that I'm being a child, that's what makes us suppress what we're really thinking. Once you start to free up your brain and stop needing to apologize for feeling how you're feeling and the reasons behind it, what you build a skill for is understanding the bullet points behind that feeling, the bullet points behind that reaction. That is what you need to do performance, decision-making, innovation. A lot of people don't understand the reasons why we're throwing a few extra, it's like, I think of spices or something that just either really sour like lemons or salt or pepper. It's like, and it's tiny. There's just a little extra we're throwing in and you're like, why was I doing that? Whether it's in the feedback you gave, whether it's in your reaction to the feedback. And once you start understanding the reason why that extra heavy hand of salt, pepper, lemon, whatever, it just makes you cringeworthy or flare up. That's the place you need to get to. And once you do that, your mind actually clears up. You get to a place where you can process difficult stuff faster, and that is a human advantage. If you can process difficult topics, difficult conversations faster than other people, and find teammates who can do that with you, I'm telling you, you can outmaneuver almost any team in any field. But the process of getting there is not easy. We don't get truth because we react this way, right? Dan gives critical feedback to Hamish. Hamish says, dude, I'm so offended, I'm so triggered, right? And then it signals to Dan and the whole group, you can't give any more feedback, right? So the way it turns into a rap is if you only stop after part one. There's part two, right? Yeah. We stop at part one, and this is now
trying to process the feedback.
Meaning Hamish needs to push through his anger
yes.
to get to part two, which is what is the truth, the gem of truth in the feedback, right? And also, because a lot of times we react, I'm offended, dude, that pisses me off, and then we bite our tongue and we stop.
That's over.
There's more. Right? And it's very difficult in those tenuous, difficult conflict situations like that to be the driver of pushing through to part two. What is the part two? What is the truth? Look, it's like, I hate the way you said it. I hate the words you picked. I hate your tone and all that stuff. It really offended me. I think it's because of blah, blah, blah. But then you need to push to this other side, right? This other side of, okay, but there's a piece of truth in there that kind of hurts because I know it's true. And if you can push to the other side, that's when the conversation gets real. Right. But if you stop after part one, it stays as a RAB. It signals to everyone, don't criticize me, don't give me feedback.